Join us at Women of Courage and celebrate the achievements of women. In the upcoming months, I am going to change our format significantly. This year, we will exhaust 3 subjects: breast cancer in black women, voting, and the subjects for black men. Each of these ideas and subjects is essential for the black community. Our survival depends on the health of black women, our willingness to vote, no matter what, and the fortitude and determination of black males to develop. We might as well face it, the survival of any community depends on the mental and physical health of both the female and male. Children need both their father and mothers, and the community needs happy, substantial families to survive. No culture can survive without either. I want you to join me in our discussions. I want women to realize that the survival of their children is the only proof that they ever existed. Think about what I just said. Your children are the only proof that you ever existed on this earth. So when you are careless about your health and die before your time, the survival of your children is greatly reduced because they will be placed in foster care where they can be abused mentally and physically. I want men to join in learning about breast cancer and try to save the lives of their mothers, sisters, aunts, cousins, and grandmothers. I want men to begin to listen to subjects that can greatly improve their lives. I am going to play certain speeches regarding the need to vote. There will be speeches of Obama, Stacy, Abrams, and others. I am also going to discuss Shirley Chisholm, Constance Baker Motley. She is the first African American woman to ever become a federal judge. All in all, I hope you will enjoy the new format and be greatly encouraged in your life. Also, thank you for listening and growing with us. Hello, this is the Women of Courage show, and I am Gloria Lee, your host. For the most part, almost all of our broadcasts are dedicated to trying to get men and women to focus their attention to changing their behavior to live a better life. You must understand your change is essential to the well-being and survival of your children. We want children to avoid the profession of prostitution and living a life in prison. When you change, you will see the possibilities available to you. You do not have to continue to live a life that you hate and a life that you are truly ashamed of. Poverty does not have to define you. Let your strength and perseverance define you. You can listen to us at home, in your car, or at work on your lunch hour. It is essential that you get a daily dose of encouragement every day. Just a few minutes a day of listening to us can make learning effortless. You can even listen to us while you're preparing dinner or just as you are about to fall asleep. We want you to fit our broadcast into your day. This is why we put all of our broadcasts on the YouTube channel Touched by the Light Publishing. Our goal is to inspire you to greatness. So give Women of Courage a listen to throughout the week, and please support us by purchasing a book today from our website, touchedbythelight.us. Thank you.
People around the world watch what we do as America, and right now we're about to take ourselves off the map as a role model If we let people destroy one of the most important pillars of a democracy, which is free and fair elections.
You're talking.
As Vice President Kamala Harris warning of the risk to America's standing as a role model in the world if voting rights legislation is not passed. Joining us now, former Georgia House Minority Leader and current Democratic candidate for governor in Georgia, Stacy Abrams. She's the author of the new children's book, Stacy's Extraordinary Words. We'll get to that book in just a moment. Stacy, it's good to have you on the show this morning. Let's talk about voting rights, as the vice president was just there, and the hopes that perhaps something will get done in the new year. We've heard from the president, we've heard from leadership in the Senate that they're going to push Build Back Better to the side for the time being and focus on voting rights. How optimistic are you that something may be passed?
I'm very hopeful that we are in a position to see a restoration of the Senate's power, that we will have senators who recognize that to protect our democracy, we have to use the pieces that we have, the tools that we have. And that includes the ability to pass legislation at the federal level to secure our elections, to protect our voters, and to ensure that our election workers aren't facing the threats that we are seeing rise across this country. And I believe we can get that done.
We usually we talk in shorthand about voting rights. I think it's important to be specific. If you look at, for example, the John Lewis bill that's in front of Congress right now, what in there, as you see it, would improve all those things you just talked about?
Well, we have to think about these things in tandem. The Freedom to Vote Act is about setting standards, minimum standards across the country for how we access voting, how we protect our election workers, and how we push back against the subversion of democracy. So it's designed to mitigate the laws that we are watching pass across the country that may be in effect by the time the Freedom to Vote Act passes. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act says that before new bills can pass, they have to be pre-cleared. And so one is designed to nullify bad laws that have passed, and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is to say that before new bad laws can come into effect, you have to go through the Justice Department. And so it's both prophylactic and it's curative. And those are the pieces we need to protect voting rights, to protect our democracy in this country.
Gene Robinson has a question for you. Gene?
Stacy, good morning. Thanks for being with us today. My question is, you are one of the most eloquent and effective advocates for voting rights in this country today. Are you having contacts with the with senators in an attempt to get some of this legislation through? I mean, because that's really where the ballgame is now. It's the House is not a problem. The Senate still remains a problem with the filibuster. Are you having any conversations with senators who might need to be persuaded?
Well, I appreciate the compliment, and yes, I'm working very closely with members of the U.S. Senate to ensure that they both understand the urgency of the moment, but that we recognize the complications of the structure of the Senate. And that's why we need to frame this as a restoration of the Senate. This is not about breaking tradition. It is about protecting the fundamentals of our nation. And that for those who may have some hesitation, we have to find a way to restore the Senate without undermining overall the capacity of our nation to function. And I think the U.S. Senate is working towards that. I know that the leadership in the Senate has been in deep conversations with its members and that we are working towards a path to get this done. But what's most important is that we stop framing this as a partisan battle. This is not about partisanship. This is about patriotism. It's about American citizens, regardless of who they choose when they enter the booth, that they have the ability to participate in our elections, and that on the other side, that their votes are actually counted by those who are responsible for determining and announcing the outcome of elections. This is about protecting voters, but also protecting the foundation of our democracy and not allowing it to be subverted by those who would erase the voices of the people in order to achieve their political ends.
And just to follow up, is there any indication that there are any Republican senators who might be willing to support any of this legislation? I mean, it's amazing. The last time the Voting Rights Act was reauthorized, every single Republican senator voted for reauthorization. The time before that, Strom Thurmond voted for reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act, which has a lot of basically we're talking about the pre-clearance provisions that are in the John Lewis Act. This time, we've had no Republicans, publicly at least, willing to support even that, with the one exception of possibly Lisa Murkowski, at least willing to debate it. Are there contacts ongoing, and is there any hope that Republicans will join in defending our democracy?
There's always hope, and certainly, as Senator McCaskill would point out, we have seen strange bedfellows come together, usually around moments where we know our nation is in crisis. I remain very hopeful that the same type of patriotism that led them to run for office will remind them of why they are in office, and that is to protect our democracy and to protect the American voter. But that said, we have to act not because everyone is together, but to keep us together. And that is why I'm so bullish on the possibility of these bills passing. We've seen Lisa Murkowski vote in order to continue debate, but we've also seen bipartisan support of the Native American Voting Rights Act. We have seen an understanding and a cognition of what's at stake, and now we need to expand that to ensure that it protects every American, regardless of their zip code. If they want to participate in our democracy, if they are eligible, they should be allowed to register, to stay on the rolls, to cast a ballot, and to have that ballot counted.
Stacy, tell us about the book. Who's it written for? Tell us about the story of little Stacy as she goes through the spelling bee and the challenges that she faces and how she overcomes them.
I'm very excited about Stacy's Extraordinary Words. I love words. And as a kid, I was the daughter. My mom was a librarian when I was growing up. She's now a minister, as is my dad. But we used to take naps in the stacks. And so I grew up literally surrounded by words almost all the time. And this is a book about a little girl who faces a new challenge, who uses words as both a comfort but also as a galvanizer and a catalyst. But the subtext is also that she is afraid to use her words sometimes to protect herself and to protect those around her. And so this is a story of perseverance, about competing and finding your voice. And I'm so excited to have the chance to share this book, and especially with the illustrator Kit Thomas, who used extraordinary artistic capacity to bring the story to life.
And you've said that it was a teacher of your own from your childhood who has inspired you partly in writing this book. Tell us about her.
Miss Blakesley was my second grade teacher. I was promoted from first to second grade in the early part of my opening tenure in elementary school, and it was a very scary time to move and to suddenly have to make new friends. She realized that I was quiet and reserved, and instead of making me go outside and play, back when dodgeball was really dodgeball, she would let me stay inside the classroom and read. And between her and my mom and my dad and my siblings, I was able to use books as a way to really figure out who I was going to be. And Miss Blakesley is very prominently featured in the book, as is my mom, and as is my first foray into the spelling bee.
Well, congratulations on the book. It's called Stacy's Extraordinary Words. And before we let you go, got to ask you about hopping back into the Georgia governor's race as you ran 3 years ago. What is different this time as you size up the field? We'll see what happens in the Republican primary. You may face Brian Kemp again. What's different this time?
We have hundreds of thousands of new voters on the rolls who have voted for Democrats. In fact, we saw that happen in 2020 and 2021. But more importantly, we are watching the triple crises in healthcare and education and the economy that are being not addressed by our current leadership. So we have failed leadership on one side, and we have extraordinary opportunity on the other side. And my mission is to be the governor who leads us towards that opportunity by bringing folks together, not using division, but using an opportunity to thrive as the message for our communities.
And I know, Stacy, how excited you are to have received Donald Trump's sort of endorsement in the race, saying you'd be better than Brian Kemp. Stacy Abrams, thanks so much for being with us. Congratulations again on the book.
Thank you all so much. Good morning.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.
I am going to pause for a second to take a short break while you listen to information regarding willpower and encouragement. It is all a matter of learning new behaviors. And please remember, it is easier to build strong minds than to repair injured people. What I said is a modification of a quote by Frederick Douglass. He said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Now for my break. Hello, this is Minister Gloria Lee from the Women of Courage show. I want you to prepare to vote. That is correct. I want you to make up in your mind, come hell or high water, that you will vote in every election that is held in the state of Michigan, regardless of how long the voting lines are and regardless of the weather. Your vote is important. That is why you need to take some water with you and a small stool to sit on. Your vote will determine the property tax we pay, the car insurance that we pay, the housing that is available for seniors, the schools our children will attend. Your vote will determine the number of new job openings, the number of hospitals and hotels in our city. Your vote will determine the policies at our universities and the police force. Never assume that your vote does not count. Voting is the most essential activity that you will ever participate in your life. People have died so you can vote. Elections comes down to voter turnout, so stand in line and make your vote count. I would like for you now to listen to a short speech by John Lewis on voting. Listen to what he has to say and note the passion in his voice.
The Democratic National Convention has gavelled into session on this day 3, beginning about an hour ago. Let's go straight to the floor, where veteran Georgia Congressman and civil rights pioneer John Lewis is speaking.
Or do you want to keep America moving forward? My dear friends, your vote is precious, almost sacred. It is the most powerful non-violent tool we have to create a more perfect union. Not too long ago, people stood in unmovable lines. They had to pass a so-called literacy test, pay a poll tax. On one occasion, a man was asked to count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap. On another occasion, one was asked to count the jelly beans in a jar, all to keep them from casting their ballot. Today, it is unbelievable that there are Republican officials are trying to stop some people from voting. They're changing the rules, cutting polling hours and imposing a requirement intended to suppress the vote. The Republican leader in the Pennsylvania House even bragged that his state's new voter ID law is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state. That's not right, that's not fair, and that is not just. And similar efforts have been made in Texas, Ohio, Florida, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and South Carolina. I've seen this before. I lived this before. Too many people struggled, suffered, and died to make it possible for every American to exercise their right to vote. Together to ever turn back. So Democrats, we must not be silent. We must stand up, and speak out. We must march to the polls like never, ever before. We must come together and exercise our sacred right. And together, on November 6th, we will re-elect the man who will lead America forward, President Barack Obama.
a discussion of the book, You Are the Prophet of Your Life. This is an amazing book beyond the typical minded expectation. The book is about to make everyone well know with the discussions of various phases of life, which everyone needs to know at higher priority. This book is hope for everyone in this turmoil life with the discussions of God's will. This book will make your life easy and smooth, that you can open your mind to any difficulty or problem. After reading this book, you will understand that everything in the whole universe will adjust itself to accommodate your words, because your spirit has so much power. It will move everything in this universe, and everything will come in line with that. So you are the one supposed to speak in the middle of your house. Speak prosperity, speak help, speak peace, and speak reconciliation. Victory, the middle of your business. You are the one to speak success. You ought to speak it. You don't need anybody to speak it. God is expecting you to speak. It doesn't have to ask God to speak it. God is not going to come down to say a word. As He says, you are the king and you speak it. I've given it to you and made you just like me in my image and likeness, so that you can be like me and operate like me. You speak it. There are many other benefits to reading this book. Positive changes in life. The readers of this book may experience the positive change in life because this book is based on the solutions that no one can tell you, or neither have you wanted to discuss with anyone. Thinking of more and more problems will make you harvest the negativity of life, and this book will allow you to take control of negative thoughts and provide positivity that makes your life better. Faith and belief. Doubts and unbelief make you disheartened and extra conscious even in little matters. Reading this book will make you believe in faith and belief, which reduces stress and increases empathy. Religious belief. Religion is something that makes hope in people. Everyone dies, but there is after death. Life is coming for final results. What you do in your life. This book will make you capable to see the difference between wrong and right. Build self-confidence. This is very important for you to believe, trust in yourself. This book will provide the best way that readers can build self-confidence for the betterment of life. Positive decision-making power. Decision-making is one of the major things of your life. Your one wrong decision will lead you towards jail or hell. This book will provide you the best positive decision-making power, which is necessary for everyone to stay away from the wrong decisions. For the past 2 months, I have discussed breast cancer in Black women. Recently it occurred to me that I had not heard from males in the area. Not one man had written or called me for information on breast cancer, nor has any male volunteered to help our breast cancer campaign. This caused me to wonder why. I hope the answer is not that males think breast cancer is a woman's issue. It's not. It's a family issue. It's a marriage issue. It's a community issue. It is an issue that concerns us all. The loss of one member of our community is devastating. Everyone is affected by the death, either directly or indirectly. The death of a parent can lead to angry children and devastated husbands. The death of a parent can lead a child to criminal behavior. Breast cancer is serious business, not just because of the death, but because of the aftermath, the horror breast cancer leaves behind. This is why, as a community, this disease must be fought at all costs by all of us. You have mothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and granddaughters all at risk for breast cancer. Yes, women die of other diseases, but breast cancer is the most insidious disease of them all. I noticed I have not seen one man download the PDF file, Black Women and Breast Cancer, and send the file to any of his female relatives or friends for that matter. Why? You are concerned. So I would like for you to participate with me. go to https://nisv.info and download the PDF file Black Women and Breast Cancer and send it to 5 of your friends. Also, please sit down and read the booklet. It's filled with information. One of the most important things about the disease is that we understand it. By understanding the disease, we can ask more informed questions of our doctors. Do you know how many people die or are injured each year because they take medication improperly? There is a reason why pharmacists insist on putting warning in our medication. This is why it's important that you learn to read. Medication errors are a problem with people who cannot read or are afraid to ask their doctor questions because they don't want to appear stupid. When you go in to see your doctor, it's not your job to try to impress him or her. You want their talents to impress you. So if you don't understand something, say so, and ask all the questions you need to feel comfortable taking your medicine or understanding your illness. The same with your pharmacist. Ask him or her questions until you feel comfortable taking your medication and you know how to take your medication properly. I received a medication in the mail. I did not know how to take it. I read the directions, but it was not clear to me how to take the medication properly. I was truly frustrated because I knew I was a competent reader. I drove down to the VA Medical Center and asked the pharmacist to show me how to take my medication. The pharmacist didn't say a word, but she came out, sat down, and demonstrated how I was to take my medication. And she discussed the actions the medication would have on my body. I left her knowing more than I did when I arrived. On another occasion, I received a phone call from a pharmacist, and she told me immediately to stop taking 2 of my medication because there was a contradiction. Both medications had been prescribed by doctors, but it was the pharmacist who noted that error. So don't feel stupid asking questions of your doctor or pharmacist. That is their job, to help you with the care of your body. This is why the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer is so important. It's filled with information. The information is presented in such a way as to make you aware of what you did not know or understand. This awareness should prompt you to ask questions of your physician. All cancers are not the same. This is why family history is so important. The booklet was also written to let Black women know that their cancer can be more virulent and more progressive than others. The book was also written to inspire Black women to become more involved in the research of their particular breast cancer. Who's doing the research? Where is the research being conducted? And how is this research being funded? And by whom? I believe we can have a significant breakthrough with cancer if Black women become more aggressive in funding research. Join us to support our campaign by purchasing a book. See our advertisement. We have great gifts for men.
Now to the growing fight over voting access in this country. Georgia is at the center of the conflict, and Stacy Abrams is a driving force behind change there. Earlier today, Abrams was honored at the National Democratic Institute's Madeleine K. Albright event celebrating women's empowerment. She spoke with our Amna Nawaz about the challenges of maintaining a healthy democracy.
I'd like to begin in Texas with some news today where a number of corporations, huge corporations like Hewlett-Packard and Microsoft and others, are explicitly calling for expanded voting rights and voting access in response to Republican proposals that would limit that access. And we've seen similar efforts, of course, in Georgia and other places. I'm curious what you think it is about right now, about this moment in U.S. history that is pulling some of these companies off the sidelines and into the fight to protect voting rights.
What we saw in January of 2021, the juxtaposition of the election of Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, the first Black senator from Georgia, the first Jewish senator from Georgia, eclipsed hours later by seditionists who stormed the Capitol and murdered law enforcement officers. This insurrection has now taken root in our states. And this is no longer a question of partisanship. It is not a question of which party is electing their leaders. It's a question of citizenship. Who has the right to be heard in our nation? And while we unfortunately had silence during much of the debate here in Georgia, I believe the amplification of that issue and the ability to point out the direct connection the DNA between denying access to the right to vote and the changing of outcomes for the most vulnerable communities is why we're hearing corporations speak out more forcefully and precipitously. What's happening in Texas is important because what it signals is that we are no longer viewing voting rights as simply a question of partisanship. We are seeing it as a question of peopleship. The quality of our democracy is dictated not by the people who have the easiest time voting, but how hard we're willing to work to make certain that no one has a difficult time casting a ballot.
We know, of course, that there are hundreds of new laws that would similarly restrict access that have been introduced and proposed in dozens of states across the country. What do you think the impact of those laws could be when you look ahead specifically to the midterm elections? Are you concerned that Democrats could actually lose control of the House and Senate as a result of those?
I mean, yes, as a partisan, I am concerned about whether my party, which tends to be over-representative of communities of color, of communities that are disadvantaged and marginalized, that the party to which I pledge allegiance, or at least I have given my fealty, that the party could lose. But I honestly want us to return to the fundamentals of voting. In a nation like the US with its changing demography, if the response to increased participation by communities of color, by young people, by women, if the response is to restrict their access and impede their participation, that is a very, very strong signal that we are heading in the wrong direction and that our democracy is not safe, it is not sound, and it is not resilient. We have to be better than that.
Well, let me ask you about how the efforts could be broadened to protect those voting rights then, because we see these are largely Republican-led efforts to restrict that voting access. Do you believe that Democrats are right now doing everything they can, using every tool in the toolkit to protect that voting access?
I think on the state level, you are seeing so many people come together to fight against these bills. That's one of the reasons it is a popular topic of conversation. It's because we've made it a necessary part of dinner conversation, that this is no longer an annoyance that happens and disappears on election day, but that this is about the fundamentals of how our democracy works. But I also know that we require federal legislation. Article 1, Section 4, the Elections Clause in the US Constitution delegates to the states the right to administer elections, but it reserves to Congress the ability to set baselines and foundations. And so we need to pass the For the People Act. We need to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. I am pleased that the Senate seems to be making progress, that there is conversation. This is going to take time.
Well, let me ask you this about that bill then. As it sits with the Senate, we know that the Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has said it probably has an August deadline. Do you believe that advancing that bill, a sweeping voting rights bill, should be the priority for this administration, for this president, for his next 100 days?
I think it is absolutely a centerpiece of his initiative. I would not, however, say that we can afford to abandon the importance of fighting for the American Jobs Act, fighting for the American Family Act, in part because the reason we vote, and I want to be very clear about this, we vote not because of the act of casting a ballot. We vote for the policies that follow after, for the ways that our government helps make our lives, if not easier, then at least improves our access to increasing our opportunity. And so the absolute result of what we saw happen in 2020 and 2021 are the bills that we see moving, those priority bills that the president and his cabinet are speaking about all over this country. But at the exact same time, we must protect the very mechanism that makes those policies possible, and that is the passage of the For the People Act, particularly the voting rights components.
Stacy Abrams, I thank you very much for your time for this conversation, and congratulations again on the honor.
Thank you so much, Amna.
Our lessons are viewer supported. If you enjoy our lessons and they have been a help to you, please send the Women of Courage Show a donation. Any amount will help. $1 will help. Spread our message. You can also go to our website, touchedbythelight.us, and purchase the book, You Are the Prophet of Your Life. We support ourselves through book sales. The book is also on sale at the radio station WHPR 160 Victor Street in Highland Park, Michigan, right off of Woodward Avenue. If you do not have internet access, you can make a donation to us by mailing it to Post Office Box 7688, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan 48302. Your support will be greatly appreciated. Hi, I decided that at the end of every show for the next year, I would share excerpts from a book that I believe would enhance your life and make you a stronger thinker and problem solver. All characteristics that will help you win at life and raise stronger and healthy children. Many of you turn your nose up at reading, or you snub the advice that you must read in life to succeed, or you compare the cost of a book to getting a new pair of shoes or getting your hair done or your nails done. The reason why you make these cost comparisons is because you do not truly value a book. A book is a magnificent instrument that can change the course of your life and the lives of your children. In later shows, I plan to discuss with you how a book changed the lives of certain people. I understand that you do not earn a lot of money, and this money is valuable to you because of all the things you see advertised that you desire, and you do not want to spend a lot of money on a book. A new pair of shoes is more valuable to you than a book. If you truly cannot afford a book, then you need to go to the library and take your children with you for a day of reading. You must gird your loins and proceed at educating yourself. Some of you seem to think that having a conversation with your stupid girlfriend or your stupid boyfriend will help you more than reading a book, when actually having a conversation with your loudmouth girlfriend or loudmouth boyfriend is merely a cathartic, allowing you to blow off steam and proclaim how life has been so unfair to you. What you do not realize is that the advice coming from your do-nothing girlfriend or your do-nothing boyfriend is advice coming from a fool. Your do-nothing girlfriend is a sexual opportunist looking for a man she can impress with her body. When her vagina fails her, what will your girlfriend do but go to work at McDonald's or Wendy's at the age of 60 and continue to spread her ignorance at church? Her daughter will be on the street and her son in prison. She will never realize that her life is the result of the decision she made not to educate herself through reading. All her life, she felt that she had something better to do than reading. She had something better to do than reading with her children. She had something better to do than working with her children. And that was going to the bar, trying to entertain a man, or trying to find some man that would buy her a pair of shoes. A man spending money on her was more important than educating herself. In later shows, I'm going to spend a great deal of time giving you some examples of fools. These are people who think they are smart, willing to trade their body and integrity for a dollar bill. These people end up in the cemetery after lamenting each and every day of their lives about their unfulfilled dreams. Do not be upset by the use of the word fool. You tell me if a woman is not a fool to instruct her grandson to kill her husband for a $25,000 life insurance. Let that sink in for a moment. Instead of instructing her grandson to make something of his life, the grandmother instructs her grandson to become a murderer, to kill his grandfather. I have this anecdotal advice for you about reading. Listen to this short true story. A friend and I were talking. She said a woman she knew called her and sought to renew their friendship. During their conversation, the woman told my friend that President Trump had done so much for black people, and that's why she voted for him in 2016, and she was going to vote for him again in the upcoming election. My friend asked her a question. She said, "Tell me some of the things that Trump has done for black people." The woman said, "A whole lot." My friend persisted and asked her to name one thing that Trump had done for black people. The woman could not. The woman kept using the phrase, "a whole lot of things." My friend said after a while she stopped talking. Finally, the conversation was over and my friend hung up. My friend said, as she hung up, she made up her mind right then that she would never renew her friendship with this woman. Now ask yourself why. Why would she not renew her friendship with this woman? You can answer this question in 2 words. The woman was a poor thinker. She never investigated anything that was told to her. Whether you know it or not, a person who is a poor thinker, who does not examine his or her thinking, is a very dangerous person indeed. Think about it. Today, we are going to discuss the book entitled, "You Are the Prophet of Your Life." This is an excellent book to read. It is filled with encouragement and insight into how you should support yourself and how you can advance yourself in life. This is a great read.
Please take a moment to listen to these alarming statistics. According to a recent New York Times article, the U.S. suicide rate surged to a 30-year high in 2015. In fact, in the last 15 years alone, the suicide rate for girls aged 10 to 14 tripled. Middle-aged women saw a 63% increase. And for middle-aged men, the rate grew by 43%. These statistics are devastating. People of all ages and walks of life are unhappy, desperate, and without hope. And the problem is getting worse. My name is Gloria Lee, and I'm here to tell you that there is an answer. You are the prophet of your life. You can control your destiny and shape your future. You can live a better, more fulfilling life. You can change the course you're on. You Are the Prophet of Your Life is a new book that I've written and that I am glad to be able to share with you or anyone you know who may be personally suffering. Nobody needs to suffer in silence. This book will show you how to be the author of a new chapter in your life. It will show you what you need to do to be happy, successful, and sure of yourself and your future. I have found that it's in your darkest hours that you can discover your true self, the brilliant light within all of us that can never, ever be dimmed. You learn how to make informed decisions that will enrich your soul, enlighten your mind, and show you that you have the capacity to make permanent, positive changes in your life. You are the prophet of your life. Many of us live our lives, but few live their dreams. As prophets of our lives, we have the capacity. We can also attain our most lofty dreams. Ask yourself, do you want to have rewarding personal relationships? Do you want to run a successful business? Do you want to raise a beautiful, happy family? Whatever your dreams are, they are all possible if you have the roadmap, the set of instructions on how to achieve these goals. You have them now in You Are the Prophet of Your Life. No one has to live a life of mediocrity, settling with whatever comes their way. This book provides practical guidance on how you can move from just dreaming of having a better life into making it become your reality. Please join me in watching this short video on how you can realize that you really are the prophet of your life. Listen, negative thoughts interfere with the wonderful life you are meant to live. You Are the Prophet of Your Life will show you how to live positively no matter what your current situation is. Don't let problems stand in your way of a happy and successful life. Learn how to overcome even the most difficult challenges you may face. Think of your life from today on as a new building in which you are the architect. You are the builder of the greatest life you can live. It's up to you to determine what course your life takes, starting today. Because, my friend, you are truly the prophet of your life. Every day life throws challenges at us, and it's how we choose to handle them that makes all the difference. You can decide the course of your life from today onward. You can be your own prophet. Some of the key messages discussed in the book include being consistent in what you say and what you believe. A problem that most of us are guilty of is inconsistency. We are destined to fail when we allow negative thoughts and beliefs to impact what we say, not only to ourselves, but to others. Being inconsistent in one's beliefs translates to sowing seeds of doubt and unbelief. The famous saying is true that whatever you sow, you will reap. Always endeavor to be consistent in what you say and speak to others exuding faith, happiness, and wellness. Being pessimistic is dangerous. Do you get up in the morning telling yourself it's going to be a horrible day? No matter how bad your yesterday was, it should never stop you from being optimistic today. Being a pessimist is a recipe for suffering. It prevents you from seeing the positives in your life. You must realize that you are in control of what you think. Most importantly, positive thoughts lead to positive actions. Why get up in the morning telling yourself it's going to be a horrible day? Why tell yourself you are meant for the doom and not the fortune? Being pessimistic sets you up for a miserable life. It prevents you from seeing the positives in your life. You must realize that you're in control of what you think. Most importantly, you must always remember it is positive thinking that will make you a better person. The importance of reading scriptures. You don't need to believe in God to read scriptures. There are lessons that anyone can learn and gain inspiration from. Reading the Bible can help liberate you from negative thinking. God's words exude hope and positivity. God tells man that he can look forward to a great life by living righteously and not violating others. Nothing is as powerful as this. The need to investigate your emotions. Being the prophet of your life involves you being in control of your emotions. Investigating our emotions requires self-examination, which for some is painful. Most of us are scared to make mistakes, so we hesitate to make tough decisions. No matter how difficult investigating your emotions can be, you must never shy away from it. When you are not in touch with your emotions, you are destined to live a life out of control. Take control of your life. Taking authority over your life involves you investigating your emotions. A lot of us fail in this regard. Investigating our emotions requires self-examination, which is usually painful. Apart from this, most of us are scared of making mistakes. Thus, we tend to prefer to oscillate back and forth between two kingdoms than taking tough decisions. Irrespective of how difficult investigating your emotions can be, you must never shy away from it. When you do not investigate your emotions, you are inviting others to take control of your life. You are the prophet of your life. A lot of us have found ourselves in threatening scenarios: a cheating husband or a cheating wife, an unwanted pregnancy, extreme poverty, and many others. We were faced with making decisions which could either make us or mar us. While some of us were able to scale through, others weren't lucky enough. Well, it's not that the women that couldn't make it through were foolish or less deserving. Most of the time, they were just unlucky to be victims of the weak belief system of the society we find ourselves. By living positively, you can solve a number of personal problems that could stand in your way of a happy and successful life. Think of your life as a new building, for which you are the architect. You can decide how many bathrooms or bedrooms you put in there. Think of your life as a vehicle for which you are the driver. You can decide when to stop or accelerate. Think of your life as a ship on a stormy sea, for which you are the sailor. You have to sail to safety, otherwise the ship will capsize. Only you can determine your course. Only you can decide which direction you want to go. You can liberate yourself. The book, You Are the Prophet of Your Life, was written to help people all across the world to stand and confront the monsters in our lives for the sake of the future of our children. This book takes into cognizance the millions of people in the world who have lost their lives solely because they were poor and were unable to control their environment. If the book You Are the Prophet of Your Life has a positive change on just one person's life and saves them from living a life full of hopelessness and despair, then it will have been worth it to me. But I know the impact this way of life has already had on me, and my goal is to share the message with as many people suffering as possible. This book is for everyone, male or female. This is the story of your life, and you are its only writer. Let You Are the Prophet of Your Life be your companion to help guide you through life's obstacles. Let it be the beacon of light to awaken your best you. A Chinese proverb says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. You should never be afraid of taking the bold step. You want a change of career at 40? Go for it. You need to acquire a new skill to boost your income? Go for it. You love someone but are scared to tell them? Come on, do it now. No one would kill you for that. It's the story of your life. You don't let anyone else but you be the writer. You can look beyond the facade of whatever despair and disappointment you are currently facing. Don't ever look down on yourself. If you ever have to look down, make sure it's your shoes you're admiring. You need a companion to help you through life. You need a companion to help make your decision-making a lot easier. That companion is You Are the Prophet of Your Life. Read a copy now and live the life you've always wanted. We at Touched by the Light Publishing hope you enjoyed our presentation and realize you can enjoy a more fruitful and fun-filled life after reading You Are the Prophet of Your Life.
This video was brought to you by the Women and Children's Restoration Ministries. Why not email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com and learn about the programs we have to assist women. We welcome women who wish to participate. Surely you have a few hours each month to help us with one of our programs. We believe that one of our programs, Recruiting Citizens, The Wall Project, Black Women in Cancer, Teach Someone to Read, will interest you, where you might volunteer once a month to help us. Our primary function is to assist women in changing their lives. Email us today. We would appreciate your help.
Congressman John Lewis is a living legend and an icon of the civil rights movement. A central focus of Lewis's activism has been the fight for the right to vote, a right that until 1965, generations of African Americans had been denied.
When John Lewis was a teenager, he read in a comic book about what Dr. King had been doing in Montgomery. And he went to his parents and he says, I want to be part of this.
By 1963, John Lewis had helped organize demonstrations and sit-ins across the South. When he was elected chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that same year, he became one of the Big Six leaders of the civil rights movement and helped plan the March on Washington. At age 23, Lewis was the youngest person to speak at the event. But his most defining moment came 2 years later, when he turned his attention to voting rights and helped lead a dangerous civil rights march from Selma to Montgomery.
John Lewis was on the front lines of the 50-mile march, starting in Selma to Montgomery, demonstrating the murder of Jimmy Lee Jackson, a young African-American who was killed by a state trooper, but also the denial of African-Americans' right to vote across the South. If they could get the nation to zero in on Selma, Alabama, a place that had a large black population and very few African Americans who were registered to vote, then perhaps there could be some action.
As activists marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, state troopers tear gassed and beat them on what came to be known as Bloody Sunday. Lewis himself was severely beaten, suffering a fractured skull. 8 days after Bloody Sunday, President Lyndon Baines Johnson introduced the Voting Rights Act in Congress, and he would sign it into law in August 1965.
Today, we strike away the last major shackle of those fierce and ancient bonds.
The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was written on the road from Selma to Montgomery. The government responded and reacted to the power of the people.
John Lewis has helped secure the right to vote for millions of Americans. He's been on the front lines of the fight for civil rights for over 50 years. And the last time I checked, he was still fighting.
Too many people struggled, suffered, and died to make it possible for every American to exercise their right to vote. And we have come too far together to ever turn back. We must stand up, and speak out.
We enjoy your listening to the Women of Courage show at WHPR every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. and every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And we support your local hairstylist. Do not forget to go to touchedbythelight.us website and download a copy of the booklet, Black Women and Breast Cancer. This is very important information, and we would appreciate it if you email a copy of this booklet to 5 other women. We are trying to reach 1 million people with this booklet. Help us reach our goal. Your emailing this booklet to another woman can help save a life. Too many Black women are dying of breast cancer, leaving vulnerable children behind. We can stop this trend with your help. Thank you.